Welcome back, America. So first question, Brian Cox, expert, international law and war. He's a Cornell Law adjunct professor, retired Army military attorney. So if the enemy, as in this enemy, is firing ballistic missiles left and right and using armaments that are actually outlawed in war at Israel, at Arab countries, and population centers, specifically where civilians live, you're not allowed to respond in kind. Is that right?
Well, we still will comply with law of armed conflict. And so if Iran or if Hamas, Hezbollah, if these groups or the Iranian government, if they decide that they're not going to comply with relevant rules of law of armed conflict when they're launching munitions, Israel, the United States, and anyone else involved, especially from Western countries, we will still comply with our obligations, but it'll be it's not really all that challenging to continue compliance, even if an adversary refuses to, because law of armed conflict really exists to prohibit wanton destruction. And as long as we identify what it is that we're attacking and we direct our munitions against those military objectives, then we'll be complying with law of armed conflict, even if our adversary refuses to.
I have in front of me, though, the Potsdam Declaration, July 1945. I wasn't even going to mention this, but I have it. And then we have the Instrument of Surrender by the Japanese, September 2nd, 1945. And in order to implement the Potsdam Declaration and get them to surrender to the terms that the Allies wanted, we dropped 2 atomic bombs. Now, I'm not encouraging it. I'm asking you about the law. Is that legal today under the law of war or not?
Yeah, so the calculation is a bit different when it comes to weapons of mass destruction, because that's really those are munitions that have a strategic level effect. And so for us, it would be the President of the United States who decides whether to launch nuclear weapons. And so, which was also the case back in World War II. The considerations are probably a bit different now, but it's still, this law of armed conflict still applies. It's just the decision-making process for weapons of mass destruction is elevated because of the strategic nature of the impact of those weapons.
So I take that as a possible yes. I'm not encouraging it. The left goes crazy and they try to put words in our mouths. I'm just trying to get the law now down here. Now, let me ask you the next question, which is, so if the enemy uses weapons like this and they're attacking us or Israel or Saudi Arabia or Bahrain or whatever, enemy, I'm talking about ballistic missiles as an example. Are you allowed to fire under the law and return the same type of weapon in order to discourage them from using them?
Yeah, so Israel can still launch weapons. So the big difference is the way that Iran or their regional proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah, when they launch munitions against Israel, they're not really trying to identify military objectives. They're just trying to get into Israel, to get past Israel's missile defense systems and attack wherever they can land. And Israel and the United States, that's not how we fight. So we actually look for military objectives, try to find them, and direct our munitions directly against those. And that's regardless of whether our adversary decides they're going to comply with the law or not.
Even if we want to discourage them from doing it, we shouldn't do it.
So there is actually a provision that allows belligerent reprisals, and there's been rhetoric saying that those are outlawed. But the United States has said we reserve the right to engage in conduct that would otherwise be unlawful if it would encourage our adversary to comply with the law of armed conflict. But so far, I haven't seen any indication that the United States has implemented that measure. They're still, as far as I can tell, directing attacks against identified military objectives.
No, I know we are, and I know Israel is, and I know so forth, but I was just wondering if we could. And there seems to be a fine print there that says under certain circumstances. All right, Professor, great job. We appreciate you we appreciate you clearing all that up for us. We really do.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.